the life that wins, and what a joy it is that you would let me in your home again, just to talk about our mutual Lord. That know that, but there's probably a lot that don't. But I shall know him, I shall know him by the prints of the nails. You know, I'm sure that's true. But you know, there'll be more to knowing Jesus than that. Because we lived with him, we walked with him, he dwelt within us. But one day, he kept those scars, you know. Yes, because it is to Thomas. He said, "You don't think it's me, huh? Then put your hands in the scars." So, we'll see those scars. I shall know him. I shall know him. I shall know him by the prints of the nails in his hands. Well, I just hope I'm able to get through this tonight. It's been quite a day. It's very. I had the music in our fellowship of women at the church, and so today we celebrated the homegoing of a lady that we've been following who's been very ill for about at least 3 years, maybe longer. Very ill, but very close to the fellowship. And then right at the close of it, I had a little choir put together, and they were all singing songs about heaven, and we didn't even hardly plan it that way. And then a lady stood up to sing, and she sang the song that Sandy Patty used to sing, you know. Let's see, yeah, when my life's work is in it. No, that's gone. But anyway, it was all about heaven. And I tell you, I don't know if I was on the table, under the table, where, but it just has blessed. So I've been in a state, I think, of heaven all day long. Well, we're going to talk about that today. Sometimes when we have a loved one or a situation that is perilous, it is. Life is perilous. Life is sometimes tragic. And that's the way it was in the home of Mary and Martha and Lazarus. Lazarus was a beloved man by Jesus. But when he died, the girls knew where he was. He was down in Jericho, probably almost, I don't know, maybe 100 miles from there, but it's a long ways. And they would have to come on foot. But they sent when he was grievously ill, and they felt like they had time for Jesus to get there. But Jesus delayed. Now sometimes when you're in the crucible and you're praying for something and you think, now if Jesus had just been here, that wouldn't have happened. And here Jesus delays. You know, Jesus is never in a hurry. because he knows who he is. And he knows that it sometimes, if he's delayed, means that it's a delay and we're all a bit out of shape. That's all right. He has a bigger miracle in mind. And sometimes we have our miracles all planned, but it doesn't go according to plan. So I got this separated in all D's. If you are interested in I can remember things better. And I've got the delay, the death, the distress, the debate, and the discernment, and then the demonstration. So, not that you're going to remember it, but I hope I do. Okay, the delay. We've already talked about that delay, and I know that I'm talking because life is life. And you know what? These are facts. Lazarus is very sick, and he's sick unto death. And so finally Jesus said, we got to go to Jericho. He said, well, what are you going to Jericho? He said, we're going because Lazarus, he says, is asleep. He didn't call it death. Jesus calls death other things than we do. He calls our prayers other things than we do. We've got them already labeled. This is terrible. And Jesus said, well, I'm just not there yet. And he said, it would, even if I wasn't there, I could still handle it. So anyway, here's the answer, and he's off in Jericho. And so the disciples said, well, if he's asleep, let's go wake him up or go sleep with him. I mean, they made a joke out of it. No, he said, Lazarus is dead. Dead? Your friend? Yeah. He said, let's go. So then they all lined up. That's different. Yeah, how come Jesus waited around here? I thought he'd be gone, wouldn't he? I sure hope he'd come when I called. So they're all following now into Jericho. So when he got into the city of Jericho and he got near Bethany, that's where they lived. And so all of a sudden, down the path, here comes running, not Mary. No, Mary is still grieving. She's the one, that studies and prays in her room and everything. But the doer, Mary, or Martha, she's still trying to take care of the crowds. They used to hire mourners and so forth. I don't think they had to hire any for Lazarus, but anyway, she's trying to take care of them, and they're still hanging around. But Lazarus died. Yeah, it's death. Facts are facts. Yeah. But facts are more than facts to Jesus. He's got his own set of facts. So they said, first thing she did was begin to debate. And she ran down the road when somebody said, the master's coming, the master's coming. And she'd already been to the grave. She'd already put her beloved brother in there and somehow got that stone rolled up again. And he'd been in there already 4 days. And the first thing then was the debate. I can see her with her hands on her hips. Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. We've always got a reason why our miracle ought to live. And we have an agenda for it. And if the Lord would just work this way, then I'd still have my brother. Well, maybe. So she finally gets it all, and somebody wakes up Mary and said, Mary, you better go down there. So Martha sees her and says, come on down here, the master's asking for you. So she comes up, and she did the same thing. The lady that always was at Jesus' feet, always seemed to understand him. When Martha, the doer, she didn't understand quite sometimes. And if she didn't even understand her own sister. But she said, if you'd been here, Lord, our brother wouldn't have died. Well, that was pretty much for Jesus. Even Jesus. He loved Lazarus. And then they had to sort of rub it in because they said, yeah, you know, the one that you loved so much. Yeah, I know. So he said, Martha, he said, your brother will rise again. Well, then she pulled a religious thing on him. She said, well, I know. That's not what I'm talking about, Jesus. I know about the resurrection that's coming at the end of days, and he's going to be in that. I'm talking about now. And she said, Martha, who am I? She thought about it, and now it's beginning to say, whoops. And there's a discernment that's coming over Martha. And she said, oh, you are the resurrection. And she said, even now? Yeah, one translation, she said, even now. He said, if you just ask the Father, he would give it to you. See, she's coming to the Lord by doses. And sometimes that's the way we are. Yeah. And sometimes it's almost too good to be true, we think. The facts seem more plentiful to us. And so here she says, now he's, come on, Martha, we're going out the grave. Well, then she says, Lord, you've been there 4 days. He doesn't smell very good now. And she starts thinking, you know, about what will the people say. And he said, come on, Martha. Now you see, Jesus didn't need that stone rolled away for himself. No. If he could bring Lazarus out in the first place, he could have brought him through the stone. You know, we always have it all pictured out. Just, yeah, and to make it easy for Jesus. You don't have to make it easy for Jesus. You can make it harder if you want to. Elijah did. So how do you make it harder? She said, open the grave. And you know, God wanted Martha. You see, he wanted her to participate in the miracle. So the fact of her rolling away the stone wasn't so Jesus could get in or even the Lazarus could get out. It was for Martha. Because something was happening inside of Martha. And you know, it's wonderful when God begins to bring you awake. And all of a sudden, yeah, you get stronger for that stone. And you can roll it away. And then almost a spirit of expectation. And what did Jesus love? The Bible said he groaned within him. Why? Because it was hard? No, because it was death. He knew that in just a little while, he would destroy sin and death. But right now, sin and death have affected the family that he loves. And he groaned because he was going to undo the Adam's race and Adam's sin and let the oppressed go free. But here we are, back at the grave. And she's excited now. And she got a little burst of energy, which was faith, and she had acted on it, and she had opened up. And Jesus groaned. And then he said something. He lifted up his eyes. Father, he said, I know that you always hear me. But he said, I do this for those that stand around. Once again, Jesus just could have prayed in a nice little monotone, you know, and not upset the Pharisees that might have been looking around. No. And he said, Father, I know that you always hear me. But he said, I'm going to say this. He said, it's for their sakes. Jesus does everything for our sakes. Everything for our sakes. So then he cries with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. Well, I tell you, death. I tell you, now let's just skip over a little bit then to the death. When it's at the end of the world. Do you know everybody that's in the grave? Every dead person is going to hear that voice. Come forth. And they're going to come out of the graves everywhere. But you see, we're back at the facts now. And one of our loved ones, our prayer project, had that. But Jesus is the I am. I am the resurrection. What is your need tonight? He's the I am, you know. Not I shall be. Not I was. No, he's the I am. If you need peace, he's the I am. He's the ever-present God. Never takes anything by surprise. And what happened? That dead Lazarus, dead 4 days, heard him, heard the call, heard his name, and the resurrected life came up in Lazarus, just like they'll do in the last days. And Lazarus comes bounding out. You see, they expected him to stay in there because he was all bound up. I don't know whether they did the other purification or not, but they had bound him all up like they used to do and everything. So he was all bound up. So he comes a hobbling out and so forth. Now Jesus turned to the rest of them because he wanted them to partake of the miracle. He said, now, loose him and let him go. You know, sometimes Jesus gets people out of the grave and we don't do much with them. We don't realize the baggage yet that's bound them for years. Habits, problems, illusionment, disillusionment. So many things. Accusation. But what are we to do? We're supposed to unwrap them. That's our job. That's our ministry. Everybody's got a ministry. There's somebody you know right now that needs to be unbound. And you need to get to their house and say, I'm here to take that wrapping off of you. You've suffered with that long enough. And so they loosed him and let him go. And every time that after that there was a meeting anywhere, guess who was there? Lazarus. It's upset the Pharisees so much they said, you know, we got to kill this man. Because if they hear this, and we're dead meat in this, you know, over here in the Sanhedrin. And so they said, we got to do something about him. If we killed Jesus, we got to kill Lazarus. So don't be surprised if they come after your miracle too. Yeah, that's all right. This is a vicious world. But I tell you, we got the I am on our side. He's on your side. I shall know my Redeemer when I reach the other side. And his smile will be the first to welcome me. I shall know him. Know him. I shall know. As beside my side, I shall stand. I shall know him. I shall know him by the Prince of the nails. In his hand, in his hand. Have a wonderful week and know how much God loves you, and he is your resurrection for your problems.